Good morning, everybody. Our last episode, shockingly, received such good feedback.
Yes.
And we're shocked by that only because I don't know if you've seen the reel that was posted. We made a montage of the way we were fighting for our lives through this last
Fighting
episode.
for our lives. That might even be an understatement.
It's true. It's true.
I had bronchitis. Kelsey had a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
It was a battle.
Yep, but we are back in action.
Yes.
Better than ever. Yep. So, Kayla, tell us what we're learning about today.
This week, we are covering a subject that we are marginally qualified to
Just a
talk
little
about,
bit.
but it has been highly requested, and we are diving into marriage, the good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful. So, we also collected some advice yesterday on Facebook from people that have been married far longer than we have.
Right.
Grandparents were married for almost 80 years,
Oh
77
my
years.
gosh.
They're both gone now, but their advice, of course, has been handed down through the generation. So people who have literally been married a lifetime and have gone through a lot of stuff together offered their advice. And so we are doing this in a speed round as fast as we can. There was a lot of good advice that, unfortunately, for the sake of time, just couldn't be captured fully. But we are going to be posting that on our Facebook page over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that and take away some nuggets of advice when you see those posts, because there was some really good stuff posted out there.
Are we ready?
I think so.
Okay, let's do this. 1, 2, and 3. Go.
From Blair Sadler, prioritize time together.
From Rochelle Kinder, be interested in each other's hobbies, at least one that you can do together besides sex. Also, pray, pray, pray.
From my best friend's mom, Lee, you have to be a little bit crazy and a lot flexible.
From my Mimi, communication, lots of forgiveness, respect, and an occasional happy day present to show your love and appreciation.
Oh. From Kathy Smith, appreciate the good stuff by saying it out loud.
From my Aunt Lana, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
Love that. From Emily Greenlee, happy wife, happy life.
Mm-hmm.
Take notes.
You listening, Michael? From Christine Holt, finding time to connect, even if it's just checking in.
From Matt's mentor, Mr. Charlie Durkee, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
Oh, from Kinsey Dombach, voice expectations, wants, and needs. None of us are mind readers.
Oh, I love that.
That's a good one.
From Miss Ginger Strickland, never go to bed mad and end the day with an I love you.
Oh. I'll work on that, Ginger. From Megan Smith, be your spouse's biggest hype man.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
From my stepdad, Andy Caton, you're a team. You may lose a few games, but practice harder for the next game and always try to get to the Super Bowl.
I love that analogy.
He is the king of analogy.
From Gail Welsh, lots of grace for one another and say I love you and hug every day.
Aww.
That's sweet.
From my mama, build a case for how great they are and look for the evidence every day.
From my dad, compromise, patience, and work. Be intentional about staying with the same person. To add on to that, my mother's piece of advice is simply one word, and that is wine.
It helps.
It
helps.
It does.
From Ginger Hill, accept each other for who you are and try not to change all of the little idiosyncrasies.
I love that word.
Same.
From Mi Hong, remind each other of the reasons you love each other.
From Gretchen Parker Mickley, never say anything you can't take back.
From Sarah Cantrell, Paul, her husband, has seen me at my worst and still whistles at me and pinches my butt all the time.
Butt pinches are the best.
I love it.
From Lindsay Brannon, remember to have fun.
From Sydney Raquel Small, wake up every day and choose to love that person and honor your marriage.
From Aunt D, and I believe she got this from Grampy, Matt's grandpa, who was married to his lovely bride for 77 years.
Oh, wow.
You didn't make those wedding vows to break them.
Amen. From my dear friend Leslie Dawson, to end this portion, She says, marry a woman.
We love you, Leslie. That
Yes.
cracked both of us up. So, with all of those absolute gems of advice, and in honor of my hot husband Matt's birthday,
Happy birthday,
falling
Matt.
2 days before the release of this episode,
Regulators, mount up.
Let's jump in. We came up with this idea for this episode because number one, we've both been very fortunate to be in great marriages. And I want to be clear that when we say great marriages, that does not mean every day is great.
Yeah.
There is a serious difference between a great marriage and that meaning that there's never any conflict or there's never anything hard. Honestly, if every day is great, it means you're avoiding some really serious,
It's true.
deep seated issues that you probably need to address. And Matt and I had a pastor one time that did a sermon on marriages. And the really funny one was what happens when two bulldozers marry each other, which is
Right.
totally me and Matt. But basically, if there's never any conflict, someone is being bulldozed.
Yep.
Someone's suppressing some feelings.
Well, it's
They're
good
being
to know
bulldozed.
neither of us are being bulldozed.
Yes. But overall, we have healthy marriages. We have happy marriages. We enjoy being married
Right.
to our husbands. We wanted to take the opportunity to talk about that and to share some of our takeaways and things we've learned over the time we've been married.
Yep.
And number two, we realize how much work and time, energy, patience it requires to keep a great marriage great. It takes conscious effort.
Work. Yeah. We also decided to do this because while we have great marriages, we have also had times where our marriages, frankly, sucked.
Yes.
And while it's easy to pretend that everything's amazing all the time, we're here to be transparent and hopefully offer a sliver of help to those women who are in the sucky part. We've been there, and we want to make you feel warm and safe here as well.
Yes. You are seen. It does not mean your marriage is a failure.
Nope.
I do want to, before we even get into this, I want to be very clear. There is a difference between your marriage going through a rough patch.
Yep.
Something that is just going to require you both putting your head down and working together to get through whatever it is as a team.
Yeah.
And your marriage being in a rough patch because abuse is occurring.
Yes.
The things we are talking about in this episode are not intended to address abuse.
Yep.
If you are in a relationship where you are being physically, mentally, emotionally,
Verbally.
financially abused, get out.
Yep.
And let me add this caveat, and this is specific to women.
Yep.
If you are being abused and you went to your pastor or a member of your church and their advice to you is to just be more submissive as a wife,
Yep.
I want you to hear me very clearly. Run.
Yes.
That advice is not for you.
Nope.
Abuse is not an issue of you not being submissive enough as a wife.
Yep. And we will have a specific episode on domestic and intimate partner violence.
Yes.
Where we have experts come on and give insight into what domestic violence looks like. But in the meantime, on our website, we have a resources page. On that resources page is the National Center for Domestic Violence. Visit that website and take the steps listed on that website to go from there.
Absolutely. Kelsey could tell you I could get distracted on that subject all day, but I just want it to be very clear that is not what we are talking about today when we get into challenges.
And also know that we understand. We are not judging if you're staying. We understand the mental load that comes with that, the emotional, the physical, the financial load that comes with leaving. And that's why we're providing you resources so we can hopefully help you get out of that situation.
Absolutely. So, that said, let's dive in. We did look into some research about what makes a marriage work,
Mhm.
the evidence based research that gives us kind of the nitty gritty view
Yeah.
into real marriage. What does it really look like? It's not the
Right.
social media highlight reel with people posting mushy gushy stuff and flowers showing up at your door every day. And so we started with John Gottman, who's a renowned marriage therapist, and I believe it's his wife
Yep.
that also is part of the institute with him. They've done like 50 years of research on marriage specifically, and the Marriage Institute, the Gottman Marriage Institute, has been implemented in marriage therapy sessions across the globe.
Mhm. Yeah. So Michael and I, my husband, went to a therapist who is specialized in the John Gottman relationship theory, and we have worked with a ton of his theories and research, and I'm just honestly obsessed with him and everything that he has to say. To start, I'm going to read some of these statistics. The four horsemen, which is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, predict early divorcing 5.6 years after the wedding. Emotional withdrawal, the absence of positive affect during conflict discussions, shared humor, affection, empathy, predict later divorcing 16.2 years after the wedding. Stonewalling occurs when the listener enters diffuse physiological arousal and their heart rate exceeds 100 beats per minute.
Hmm.
Is that wild
Cardio
or what?
workout.
69% of conflict in relationships is about perpetual problems. 16% of these perpetual issues involve gridlocked couple conflict. Dr. Godman is able to predict with over 90% accuracy which couples will divorce and which will stay together, which
Wow.
is exactly why I won't pay to go see Dr. Gottman.
Sometimes it's better to.
The average couple waits 6 years before seeking help with marital problems. Half of all marriages end in the first 7 years.
Mhm.
85% of stonewallers in heterosexual relationships are men. I know that's
Surprise.
shocking.
Let me put on my shocked face.
Yeah. 80% of the time, women bring up issues in heterosexual relationships. 67% of new parents experience a precipitous drop in couple satisfaction in the first 3 years of the baby's life. Which, duh.
Right. Those are very matter of fact. And
Hmm.
some of them are kinda hard to read and reflect on just as a human. I mean, I think we're all guilty of some of those. A couple of them that really stood out to me, one is about the decline
Yep,
in quality after a baby. One of the things that I have always been told, and I now pass on, a baby does not solve marriage problems.
absolutely.
If your marriage is already in trouble, do not get pregnant as an attempt to fix it.
Yep.
Things happen, maybe your marriage is in trouble and you end up pregnant, that's fine. Nobody's judging you, but I would just strongly advise against
Hmm.
intentionally seeking pregnancy thinking that is going to resolve your issues. If there are already issues with communication and cooperation and teamwork,
Yep.
having a baby is just going to exponentially amplify those. The other one that stands out to me is the statistic about how many arguments are about things that are not going to change.
Right.
I mean,
Let me look
personality traits,
that.
things that you knew about your partner going into the relationship that now that you're living with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all of a sudden
69%.
69%. Yeah, that's staggering to me. But looking back on some
Hmm.
of the arguments Matt and I have had in our own marriage, yeah, a lot of them probably are about stuff that, one, don't really matter,
Right.
and two, are not things that are likely to change.
No, it's
It's
kind of
just
like those arguments that you get in. You have to really think about, is this just who they are?
mhm.
Is my husband's inability to put his socks in the laundry basket who he is? And after 7 years together, I must say
Probably.
it is ingrained in his DNA because the amount of perpetual
Mhm.
arguments we've had over things like that. But,
For me, it's my shoes. Matt would tell you it's my shoes. When I come home, wherever my butt gets planted first
yep.
is where my shoes come off,
Yes.
If that means I stop at the kitchen counter to read through the mail, or I sit down at the dining table, or I go to our bedroom, my shoes come off and they do not leave that spot.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And that's who you are.
it is. It's not something I do intentionally,
Yeah.
but it's just, that's my brain's way of being like, you're home, you can relax now.
Yeah. I was really interested that the average couple waits 6 years before seeking help for marital problems. And I
Mm,
think that maybe I'm surprised by that because my husband is very pro therapy, very pro
right.
work. We started therapy before we were even married.
Hmm.
That will come along later in my story
Right.
because, to be really transparent and honest, I got knocked up
I remember the
way
announcement.
before marriage. But we really have put in the work from that time. And so it is surprising to me that people
Hmm.
would wait that long,
Yes.
especially because the rate of divorce end within the first 7 years.
So it's almost like a desperate last ditch effort to save it before they make that final decision.
Yeah, and it's like if you wouldn't have waited 6 years, maybe you wouldn't be divorcing in 7 years.
Right.
Granted, there are some situations that cannot be
Right.
worked on even through therapy.
Yes.
But I really hope and pray
Hmm.
that after this episode, more men and more women are more comfortable with the idea of marriage
Hmm.
counseling because it has saved and nurtured my marriage in more ways than I can count.
Yes. We have some friends who we met and they told us they go to marriage counseling.
Oh, yeah.
And Matt and I at the time were like, why?
They're on the brink of
Why do you?
divorce.
Yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah.
And they said at that point, no, whether we're having issues or not,
Right.
they go every so often just as a health check. Kind of like
Yeah.
you go to the doctor once a year to get your blood work done and all that kind of stuff to make sure everything's running the way it should. They said it's just a good pulse check
Yeah.
for them
Totally.
on, are we communicating as effectively as we could, or
Right.
are there some things that we're burying and failing to address that maybe we're more comfortable bringing out with a mediator?
Yeah, and the cool thing about having a therapist is not even that they're going to mediate, make sure that neither of you explode on each other,
Hmm.
but also they can see, okay, you're upset about this. Let's dig into the background and the
Hmm.
trauma that's causing it. So, one of the other things that John Gottman does when we talk to each other and we're angry at each other, we have to say, I'm feeling like blank.
I statements. Yes, that is a Gottman.
And then he has to say,
Hmm. What I'm hearing you say
what
is.
I'm hearing you say is this. What I'm feeling is this. And then you have to repeat that statement. What I'm hearing you say is this.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's really great. Sometimes we just are like,
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is.
yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that you want me to make dinner every night.
Right.
How that makes me feel is absolute bullshit.
Right. How that makes me feel is you've lost your mind.
How that makes me feel is I suck at cooking and you're better at it. So please let's work together.
Well, before we get into solutions and the magic solvent of all marriage problems, can't you hear my sarcasm?
Yep, always.
We're going to talk about how we met our partners, what marriage looks like to us. And as always, Kelsey and I have very different marriage stories, very different perspectives. Although our husbands, we are learning more and more every day, seem to have identical personalities.
Yep.
And if you've seen our reel, very different physical characteristics.
Totally.
If you have not seen that clip on our Facebook or Instagram, strongly encourage you
Gotta
to go
watch
watch it. It was hilarious.
So,
Agreed.
Kayla, why don't you tell us about meeting Matt and how your marriage has evolved over the years?
Hmm. So, Matt and I met at the YMCA in Sykeston at the gym.
That makes perfect sense.
And anybody who knows us is like, duh, why am I not surprised? I was in college and I was home for Christmas break. And we met, we took a picture together to send to my stepdad because he was working with my stepdad
Okay.
at the time, and be like, I'm moving in, son. He was like, I'm just going to tease your stepdad and see what he says.
Yeah.
And so after that, added each other as friends on Facebook. He sent me a message and was like, you've got a lot of hot friends. Are any of them single?
Oh my
And
God, Matt.
I was like, nope, just me.
Oh!
When he tells that version of the story, that was his objective all along.
Right,
I'm
totally.
not sure I buy that or not.
He
I don't
was
know. And I had enough time on my own and working through being comfortable with who I was
Yeah.
and knowing what I was looking for in a partner to be that bold.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I made some big mistakes during
Sure.
that time, but I also learned so much about myself.
Mhm.
And there were some really hard self reflections
Mhm.
I had to do during that time
Mhm.
to work through how I was contributing to some of
Right.
the issues that I had run into over and over again
Yep.
in relationships. I was never just
Single.
single
Yeah.
and enjoying time with girlfriends and learning who I was. College was a really good opportunity for me. I was in a specialized program at the time that made it really too busy
Yeah.
to have a
Yeah.
relationship. And so I was forced into this space, met some really awesome female friends who were supportive. They built each other
Mhm.
up,
Yeah.
and we were able to have all this fun. But Matt and I met, and then we started texting each other and talking on the phone. Within a couple weeks, we went on our first date. On our third date, he told me he was going to marry me,
Oh,
and it didn't make me want to run for the hills.
right.
And which then, after I reflected on that, was like, that should have
Should
been
have been a red
concerning.
flag. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
should have been really freaked out by the idea of this man telling me
No.
that
When
he
you know,
wanted to
you
marry me on my
know.
third date. But I will say, I always thought that "you'll know when you know" was
Mhm.
a crock of crap,
Yeah.
but it really is, in a way. We did not get married right then.
No. No.
Both of us felt the same way. We both felt like this was for the long haul. We continued to date for 2 years
Yeah.
before he proposed.
Yep.
And then got married almost another year later. So by the time we actually walked down the aisle, had been together for nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
And we had met each other's family. We had spent a significant amount of time with each other's family. I come from, on my dad's side, a large Catholic family with
Yeah.
some very big personalities.
Yep.
And he jumped right in to that side of the family. Everybody loved him. My dad's side of the family, guys, I love you. But if they don't like you, you know, there is zero question
Yeah.
about whether or not my dad's side of the family likes you. And I think to their credit, that's a good thing.
It is.
They're 8 siblings and they are very tight knit.
Yeah.
If they think you
I
might
love
have
that.
some shady motives or that you're not there for the right reasons, they are going to let you know. So that's how we met. That's what kind of led up to our marriage. And we were almost 6 hours apart for a pretty good chunk of our
Yeah. Yeah.
dating lives. After we got engaged, we both lived in St. Louis and we got married while we were in St. Louis. Marriage does change things.
Totally.
There are a lot of things you work through when you're dating and a lot of things that you can address and talk about. And we did the whole premarital counseling
Mhm.
deal, talking through healthy ways to resolve conflict, what the differences are between men and women,
Yep.
those kinds of things. There are still things that you don't anticipate. Life itself is so unique, and there's such a wide menu
Truly.
of challenges that can come up. There's no way for any pastor or premarital counselor or therapist to be like, you're probably going to encounter. And they just try to prepare you as best they can based on their experiences and their expertise. And then when challenges come up, you have to figure out how to work through them. Matt and I are both incredibly hard headed. And so a lot of our challenges, we've been like, we're just going to bulldog through it.
Yeah. Well, and emotions don't feel safe to you.
Yeah.
So
Well,
therapy
yes.
would not be.
Thanks for calling me out.
Sorry.
But yes. It's so true. I don't
so
know if there's
true.
ever been a truer statement
Emotions.
about me. They do not feel safe to me. I am very much honestly, in our relationship, I may be the stonewaller.
Percent.
I know the stats.
Yeah.
Say that's unlikely. Candidly, it could be both of us.
Yeah. You both are very similar.
We are both very much I don't have emotions about this and you're
Mhm.
not going to upset me and I'm not going to let you see that it upsets me. So the sermon series that our pastor did on marriage was on what happens when two bulldozers marry each other.
Mhm.
As soon as he announced the sermon title,
Yeah, you were done.
Matt and I looked at each other and we were like, this one's for us.
So you want to get lunch early?
Right. Yeah. Can we get the Cliff Notes
Yeah,
version?
yeah.
Because that's us. And we've been living it trial and error for the last 5 years. It really was. And I mean, for both of us, because we are those bulldozer personalities, we are the people that are like, one, I'm going to be very direct. And if you piss me off about something, you are going to know 7 times
immediately
today. Until we feel like I have sufficiently beat the dead horse.
Right.
To the point that I'm like, okay, I'll let it go. And then once we both let it go,
it's done.
It's over. It's like it never happened.
Yep.
And so we burn hot.
Yeah.
But we burn quick.
Yep.
Generally. Matt is not a yeller. He's not
Michael is
hothead. He's not someone generally that explodes. He just kind of detaches. He's like, I need to walk away and process, and we'll hash this out later.
Right.
But I am not going to respond right now, because if I respond right now, it's not going to be productive for anybody.
Yeah, it's going south fast.
We're going to hash it out, and we're going to hash it out now, because I'm mad about it right now. And so you are going to talk to me about it, and I will follow you through every room of this house.
100%.
Chewing you out.
Yep.
And I acknowledge that is not a healthy conflict resolution strategy.
When you go into a different room and close the door, I'm just going to text you about it.
Yeah. Thank you. So it turns out our husbands also married the same woman. Also in very different bodies, because I'm a very tall 5'5". Yeah. And you're 5'9". We will not do a side-by-side comparison of us. Anyway, we have learned over the last 10 years, and candidly, a lot of it has had to be my own growth, and he's grown in his own way, and learned a lot about how I interact, right? What kinds of things, the emotional needs I have. I am someone who feels like I need closure on something. Matt can genuinely, like, we argue about it. If you leave him alone for a while, he's over it. He goes to bed. He's genuinely not mad. He will sleep like a baby. It's over in his mind. We've resolved it. We've talked about it. We came to a conclusion. Yeah. That's it. If I do not feel like we have resolved it to the point that both of us are 100% satisfied and we are madly in love with each other, something's wrong. We hit 10 years this past November, and we definitely do not think we're experts. We both still have a lot of room for growth and a lot of room to be better at communicating in a way that is productive. It's hard. Yeah. In the heat of the moment, it's really easy when you're sitting in a controlled environment like therapy. Yep. To say, okay, this is the issue we're discussing. And I feel XYZ. And that person to respond, what I'm hearing you say is, it is a lot harder when you're in your day-to-day life. Generally, I would describe our marriage as a great marriage. I think we have pretty healthy conflict resolution. Both of us feel safe enough in the relationship that we know the other one's not going anywhere. Right. Now, that's not to say it doesn't still require work and that we can both just say or do whatever we want. Yep. And we don't take it for granted, but we can express our emotions and our disappointment or our anger or our sadness in a way that there's some grace, even if it may not be in the moment. Right. After we both walk away from it, we're able to go, okay, that probably wasn't handled as well as it could have been. Yeah. Yeah. But I love you. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
What is something fun that you and Matt do that other people don't know about other than sexy time?
Well, we're really good at identifying mid-argument when something is just absolutely absurd. Yeah. And we will do things, and admittedly, Matt is much better at it. He's far wittier than I am. Sure. I am very much the serious. I will think of something 3 hours later. Yeah. And be like, dang it, I should have said that. But Matt will do something like put a dish towel down the back of my, like, tuck the end of it down in my shirt like a cape and be like, now you're super mad. Or say we've gotten in an argument and it's been a few minutes. Right. But you always go through that phase where you're like, we're not speaking to each other. Yep. One of us will look at the other and be like, so do you think you're done yet? Or are you still going to be mad? Is it going to be like 5 minutes? Yeah. Are you over this? Maybe like 10 minutes?
Michael, when I was in the car, and this happens often, but the first time he did it, I was so shocked that I just had to laugh. I was so mad at him, and he rolled down my window, and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, you take that attitude and you throw it right outside this window, young lady. Throw it right on out.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, how fun. that I can be mad
Yes.
and he can try and work it out in a different way than just letting us sit here in silence.
Yes. I do love that. And there are things that require
Yeah.
conversation.
And justified anger.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that we need to sit down and we need to have a serious conversation because something in this dynamic is not working
Right.
for one or both of us. But there are times when you live with someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Yep.
that you are going to argue over something that in hindsight is just ridiculous. They're a small thing, they take a few minutes, but in the heat of the moment, it's frustrating and you argue over it. To me, being able to, no matter what point you catch,
Mhm.
that, okay, that was a dumb thing to argue about,
Right.
being able to laugh about it, make a joke, and sometimes that's enough for the other person, if they haven't realized it yet,
Yeah.
to go, "You're right, this is dumb."
I really and truly love Matt and Kayla. I've been honored to get to see their dynamic live in action. And they both are very muscly, intimidating looking people. I mean, Kayla is
I'll
obviously
take it.
gorgeous, but she is very fit. And when you look at her, you don't want to piss her off. You know what I mean? Same thing with Matt. And I hosted a murder mystery dinner around Halloween of last
It
year.
was so much fun.
Um, Obviously, I invited Matt and Kayla and their characters because I couldn't find anything better for them. It was the most perfect character. And they showed up dressed. I mean, he was in a pinstripe suit. Like, it was the most perfect character.
We've got a picture we can attach.
And the entire time, they stayed perfectly in character. They are just really fun to be around. And even though they look intimidating, they're like fun teddy bears.
We're not the friends that are gonna back you up in a fight. The second we start seeing fists thrown, gone. We're gone.
Yeah.
Don't count
Goodbye.
on us to have your back. If you wanna start a fight, you can finish it.
Yep. It's so true.
We are not
It's
those
so
people.
true. They will talk through something with you in a wonderful, safe, shared space with the most
Mhm.
comfortable hug you've ever felt in your life.
There you have it. So, tell me about how you and Michael met
Oh,
and all
God.
of your struggles and triumphs, and you guys have come a long way too.
So, prior to meeting Michael, I was living in an apartment by myself in downtown St. Louis. And I had committed 2017 to be my single fun year.
Mhm.
Um, that is not to say I was fully single. I definitely was on many a dates, but I was living by myself. I had really learned that year to date myself, to reflect on who I am, to reflect on the traits that, like you said earlier, might not be desirable, or where are all the common men that I've dated, which
Mhm.
too many to count, unfortunately. What's the commonality there? And
Mhm.
the problem was me.
Mhm.
I learned how to take myself out to dinner,
Mhm.
and I would go by myself. It still to this day is my favorite thing to do. And I really just learned to be comfortable by myself. I invested in friendships that year, and a relationship was just not the priority. I was on Bumble. He's going to say it's Tinder, but he's freaking lying because it wasn't. I matched with him and thought he looks like he's so fun. I would love to go on a date with him and have fun.
Just one.
Just
Just one date.
one, very non-serious. And so I messaged him and he messaged back and we did this back and forth thing for a minute. He asked for my number, I gave it to him. We texted like maybe twice and then didn't talk for 3 months. Like he just dipped out and I just dipped out. 3 months later, he hates this story and it is my favorite story. 3 months later, I post a selfie on my Instagram story. And he responds with the he's gonna kill me. He responds with the quote, "Those lips," and a marriage emoji, a woman in a wedding gown. And I was like,
What?
"What?" And so I said, "Listen, I'm not gonna be your pen pal. I'm not doing this
Right.
back and forth or whatever. Uh, when you'd like to have a date, I'm down." And he said, "I'd love to take you out. I'll actually be in town on Wednesday." He was living in Los Angeles at the time. So he flew to St. Louis that week. We went on a date that Sunday, and it was so fun. It
Mhm.
literally was everything I thought it was going to be. We had a really good time, but
Edit.
after that evening, I fully expected him to never call me again.
Mhm.
And I, to be frank, did not expect to call him again. It was just a really fun time.
Sure.
The next day, I'm at work and he calls me and he was like, "Hey, I couldn't stop thinking about you and I would love to take you out again tonight." And I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
Okay.
And felt that little,
Ooh.
that little thing that you're like, "Oh, maybe I am gonna like this guy. Oh no, oh no."
Yeah.
So the next night we went on a date and he was supposed to fly back that following morning. He didn't. So we ended up staying another week and we were just with each other like every day from that point. Eventually he did go back to Los Angeles and I stayed in St. Louis. We hated that. That was about a month of being apart, and we
Mhm.
weren't serious by any means, but we decided that we didn't wanna do that.
Mhm.
So, he moved to St. Louis. Before that, we set up, like, a travel across the United States as we moved him from Los Angeles, drove in a moving truck across the country back to St. Louis. Listen, we've known each other for a month. We're about to go on an around the country trip, and there's no better way to find out if you don't wanna be with somebody.
Sure.
So we had a blast. We got back to St. Louis. I had my apartment. He had his home. Eventually, we decided that financially it would be a good decision to move in together. So we did. Uh, don't do not even think about coming at me with your judgy stuff because, to be really frank, I don't care.
Too late for that.
Yeah, I don't care. We've been together for 5 months and we went to the Missouri Botanical Gardens. And when I was walking through the gardens, I just kept having to go pee. It was like every 30 minutes. I'm like, what is going on? The day continues and that recurring problem, it keeps happening. So eventually I decided, well, you know what? I am about 9 days late on my period. I should take a pregnancy test. So I did immediate two pink lines and I called him to come upstairs, and I was terrified, shaking,
Mhm.
just beside myself. And he looked at me with the widest eyes and was like, "Let's do this."
Right.
And just knowing that he felt comfortable, whether we were going to be together or not, that he was
Mhm.
happy that there was a baby. And we decided from that point forward that we were going to make our relationship a priority. It was no
Mhm.
longer a fun thing at this point. We had a baby on the way and that's what it was going to be. So
Mhm.
we immediately went into counseling just to simply learn how to communicate with each other. We didn't know enough about each other
Mm-mm.
even. We hadn't gotten into the deep stuff. So we went to therapy. We really got into some deep stuff. We worked through a lot. And then our baby Piper was born.
Sweet little
And
Piper.
yes, she was just the angel that we needed.
Mm.
Not to say that it fixes or makes a relationship better because it most certainly does not.
Mhm.
We were tested to the maximum in our first year of dating and having a child. But we had really chosen to commit to each other and we did the work to do that. We also were dealing with other things in our relationship at that time, outside sources, um, things that I'm not willing to get into because some of those things are intimate and
Mhm.
worthy of just staying between you and your partner. But
Absolutely.
we had gone through a lot of different things. And on Piper's birthday, we decided, her first birthday, we decided that at that point, it was time to get married, and it was not the traditional, he got down on one knee, he proposed. It was a, "There's no one else that I'd rather be with." The amount of love was there. It
Mhm.
just wasn't the stereotypical way to do things,
Wasn't a
and
big production.
no, and it's clear that throughout our relationship, we hadn't done anything the way that normal people do things. And it was intimate and special and perfect. And after our marriage at the courthouse, we went across the street to Louis' Wine Bar. We read each other our vows that we had written out at the table, and everyone cried and everyone had a good time. And then we came back home and we had a game night at our
Love it.
house. I always thought, because I am a woman that loves a big production, I
Mhm.
love a big party. I'm always hosting different parties for all my friends, and I really thought I was gonna regret that and wish that I would have done a big wedding. I never have.
Mhm.
It was intimate, it was special. It's something that me, Michael, and Piper have to share together, and that's how our love and relationship has been. It's
Mhm.
been very special and intimate and something that most people don't understand or don't wanna understand as far as the untraditional way of creating a family and a life that you're
Mhm.
proud of and happy to be in. So, our marriage is something that I hold dear to my heart. It's something that has gone through mountains and valleys, truly. We've learned a lot about each other, and that is one of the best things that I can say about our
Mhm.
marriage is that we decided very early on that this was something we wanted to commit to. And my biggest thing that I tell people is that if we would have decided that we were going to be in love forever and be so happy in love and that was the only thing that mattered was love, we would have been over years ago
Yes.
because it's not about your feelings when you're in a committed
Mhm.
marriage. Feelings are great. They're amazing. But there are days that you wake up and you go,
Yes.
no, thank you on that one.
Mhm.
How did he get into my bed?
Absolutely. And I think someone may have said this
Mm-hmm.
on, I don't remember if it was my post or yours, asking for advice. But there are days that it's easy.
Yep.
It's an easy decision, but there are days that you have to make the choice. I am in this. I made
Mm-hmm.
a vow and I choose you again.
We have really chosen each other through some of the deepest, darkest parts of our relationship and some of the best parts of our relationship. We have just a fun marriage.
Mhm.
And we really believe in dating each other. We go on dates often. We didn't have individual time for very long
Mhm.
before our child was born. So we value the time that we have when we can get away from the babies. We ended up having 3 beautiful, perfect babies,
They are all
and
so sweet.
yeah, we have just a crazy, chaotic life. We had 3 babies in 4 years,
Mhm.
and, it just hasn't slowed down since, but the best thing I can say about my marriage is just that every single day I look at him and I'm like and this is cheesy and he's gonna hate it, but every day I'm like, "How awesome is this that we get to be best friends and be with each other every single day for the rest of our lives?"
Yes.
Where he's like, "Oh god,
Yeah.
the rest of my
Right,
life?"
right. I have to throw this piece of advice in. So I did get a chance to ask my boss
Yeah,
and his wife today. They were together when I talked to him.
yeah.
And they have been married for 45 years, together for I think 52.
Oh,
They were high school
wow.
sweethearts. So they started dating when she was a freshman in high
Wow.
school. And my boss said, you just have to stay best friends.
Yep.
You get to do life with your best friend and you have to
Yeah.
remember how special that is. You have to approach it as a team. And one of the other things that Ginger Hill, Matt's cousin, one of the things she said is that it's all ours.
Right.
There is no his and hers
Mm-mm.
anymore. Everything is ours.
Mhm.
And it really is, not to
Sometimes
be
even
again too
toothbrushes.
cheesy, but the two become one.
Yep.
And everything I have is yours and everything you have is mine. And sometimes when I steal Matt's oversized sweatpants and shirt, I remind him of that.
Mhm. Another thing to note is that the people that Michael and I are right now are not even remotely close to who Michael and I were when we met. Very quickly, we had to learn how to evolve. And when you become a mother, it's almost a natural instinct to become
Mhm.
a different person and focus and provide. Michael had a harder time with that. And we both just actively had to work to become who we are now, as far as just very different people. And
Mhm.
even who we were as early parents are different than who we are now. It's committing not only to staying with this person, but it's committing to loving each other in every different form that you are. Stick through the hard stuff, the stuff that blocks out in your memory, the roommate phase, like you
Mhm.
said. Continue to choose each other,
Mhm.
continue to invest and connect, like Christine Holt said, connect in the busy times, even if it's just saying, "Hey, how are you today?" With Levi, with my 3, there are days where you could go the entire day
Yeah,
without
like
seeing your significant other.
strangers in the night.
Yep.
And just remember to have grace
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're in it. We still struggle with that sometimes too, remembering that there are days I handle more than Matt does. There are
Yep.
days Matt handles more than I do, and there are a lot of things that go unseen
Uh-huh.
that you may not be telling each other.
Yep.
You don't announce every time you pick something up out of the floor or
Right.
every time you help your kid wipe their butt. Try to give grace and to remember
Mhm.
there are things that are unseen that are being done that it's easy to underappreciate.
Yep.
And there may be days that you are carrying
Yeah.
the bulk.
Yeah. The hardest thing we've had to work through in therapy is me and Michael doing tit for tat.
Yes.
Us saying, "Well, I've
Mhm.
done this and this
Right.
today. What have you done?"
Right.
This,
I've
this,
changed the
this.
dishwasher the last 3 times.
Right.
There was a book that Matt and I read called Love and Respect.
Oh, my sister-in-law swears by that
Yes,
book.
and during the What Happens When Two Bulldozers Marry Each Other,
Yeah.
that book was the basis for that whole sermon series. But the crazy cycle,
Yeah.
where you're in this destructive cycle, and it gets into really at its core is the tit for tat issue.
Right.
Well, he doesn't love me or show me love the way I need it, so I'm not going to respect him. And then
Right.
he's going, she doesn't respect me the way I need to be respected, so I'm not going to show her love the way she needs it. And you're just on this cycle.
Yeah.
And it takes one of you refusing to continue the cycle.
Yep.
And sometimes, yes, it comes down to you having to choose, maybe again and again,
Mhm.
I am going to be the one who's the bigger person. I have identified the cycle.
Yep.
And it is interesting to see it play out in what happens when just one of you
Mhm.
refuses to continue the cycle and
No,
go, okay,
totally.
I am going to take the first step and apologize if it requires an apology, or I'm going to make an effort
Mhm.
to do what I need to do to fix this.
Yep.
So we'll link that in our show notes, but it is a really good book. What do you think is either a skill or something that you guys do
Yeah.
that has helped you continue to grow and make things work?
Yeah. I hate hugging. Like, I
Mhm.
hate it with every fiber of my being. But Michael, every day when he gets home from work, will come in the front door with a smile on his face and he will hug me and just decompress. Hold me there for a
Mhm.
minute, not just, "Oh, okay, bye." It's
Right.
just like a very quick acknowledgement of, "I've missed you. I love you. Move on before we start the 4 to 7 chaos hours of our children."
Right.
I look forward to him coming home, and he is pleasant and happy to be home.
I love that. So I travel quite a bit for work now.
Mhm.
And every time I fly back into St. Louis, there's this divorce lawyer's advertisement. And it's like, are you happy to be home?
Oh.
And every time I see that, one, I think it's kind of clever. And two, I'm like, you know what? How fortunate am I
Mhm.
that I can genuinely see that nice little reminder and go, you know what? Yeah,
I am.
I
Yeah.
am happy to be home. And
Yeah.
I am looking forward to walking back through the door and spending time with my husband and
Mhm.
my son. I think everyone deserves to have that kind of marriage and that kind of relationship.
Yep. And to my ladies, my single ladies,
Yes.
let me tell you this. Once you become able to sit with yourself, to be comfortable with just yourself, that's when you can meet someone that appreciates your comfort within yourself
Mhm.
and builds on that, doesn't take that from you. I can also say this, if you never want to be with someone and want to be comfortable with yourself and enjoy your peace, please do.
I was just going to say the same thing. Do not let anybody make you feel like you are less than
Mhm.
as a woman or that you are less deserving
Mhm.
or that you are incomplete.
I don't want you to listen to this episode and think,
Feel lacking.
"Oh, I wish that I had that. Oh, I should try for
Right.
this." If you are comfortable with who you are, the person that's meant for you will find you.
Mhm.
You don't
Agreed.
have to be actively seeking because
Mhm.
what is that quote?
I can't remember the
You
exact
like
quote, but it's basically
basically
I love myself enough not to compromise
me.
who I am
Yeah,
or my values just to be able to say I have someone else.
right.
Do not look for something in another
Mm-mm.
person, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship,
Yep.
you cannot fill that need with another person.
No, when I was young, my me and my friend Sarah Hobson watched the movie A Walk to Remember, and we're crying and, so emotional, and Jill Hobson and my mother were sitting there, and my mom goes, Ladies, a man is never your savior.
No.
You save yourself.
Mhm.
And she might as well just branded me with that. Because I was like, nope.
Yes. It is
Yeah.
no one else's job
Nope.
to
You
fix
complete
you.
yourself. It's like a full ice cream that's amazing and wonderful and soft serve and everything you want. And then you meet somebody and it's like a couple sprinkles on the top.
Right. Yes. And they should feel the same way about you.
Yep. Absolutely. They should be comfortable with themselves by
Absolutely.
themselves.
But as you can see, we have both put in some work. Marriage is hard. It's work. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not mean it's easy or it's a walk in the park just because you love each other.
Yep.
We've gotten into some of the struggles,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that have worked for us, but there are some researched and common characteristics and skills that seem to indicate whether or not a marriage is going to be successful.
Yes.
We've done that research.
Mm-hmm.
We've compiled it for you, but you are going to have to come back next week for
Absolutely.
part 2 of our marriage series to learn what those keys are and how you can apply them in your own marriage.
And it's super fascinating and
Mhm.
really interesting to listen to. So that will be our part 2 because this episode is full of good tidbits and information, and we don't want to limit ourselves on that. This episode has generated a lot of interest, and we're happy to expand on that. So we will see you guys back for part 2,
Episode 5.
episode 5.
Yes, we are so excited. Thanks for hanging in there with us and listening to a little bit about what makes us moderately qualified to talk about marriage, but we've got some research behind us that we're excited for you guys to hear. So remember to leave us a review, subscribe, follow us on all of your favorite
Yes.
podcast streaming platforms, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye. This episode of the Undomesticated podcast was filmed on site at South Fork Showroom in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. South Fork is the one-stop shop for all your home decor needs, including lighting, custom made-in-America furniture, wall art, and more. Visit South Fork today by dropping by a showroom in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, or Paducah, Kentucky, and online at southforklighting.net. As a reminder, all opinions and views shared on the show are solely those of Kelsey and Kayla and do not represent opinions or values of the organizations we work for or represent, our filming locations, our guests, or the family and friends in our lives. Artwork for the Undomesticated podcast was created by Megan Justice. The Undomesticated theme music is Beach Day in Boston by Sarah the Instrumentalist, and the theme for Wine and Wine is Follow Every Move by Radio Night. The Undomesticated podcast is produced, edited, and published by Undomesticated LLC. For more information about the podcast and your hosts, visit www.undomesticatedpod.com.